Good morning and welcome to the June solstice of 2024, where the themes are about really honoring your truth, really listening to what's coming up for you and putting into action the most loudest parts of you that keep trying to communicate with you that maybe you keep ignoring, and honoring them as truth and not gaslighting yourself anymore, not putting yourself down, not belittling your desires, but honoring the messages that come from inside of your heart and your soul, even if they're just whispers right now, and allowing them to guide you forward as if your life depends on it. That's the theme of the solstice of 2024. And if this resonates with you, I would love to hear more. Please let me know. In the meantime, what I have decided to do is I reached out to a whole heap of people who are past and present clients and people that I know, and I asked them to drop in some questions for the podcast. And the first question that I want to address and answer today sounds like this. How do you cultivate more play, fun, and intimacy in a stressful and serious world? And actually, this comes back to what I just said a minute ago about honoring the parts of you that come up that sound like whispers from your heart, from your soul, that maybe you haven't explored or listened to or honored up until now. Because if we really want to unpack this question of how do you cultivate more play, fun, and intimacy in a stressful, serious world, what it comes down to is understanding that the majority of us have grown up feeling very, very serious. Life is not easy, has not been easy, right? It hasn't. And the reason it hasn't been easy is because we have all got a packet of stuff that we need to explore, come to terms with, befriend, that are feelings and desires within us that have not been addressed. What does that mean? That means when you and I were children, we had needs, we had desires, and we looked to our caregivers to meet those needs and desires. And then the needs and desires can be simply, I want more love. Well, I want love, I want validation, and I want safety. Even if it's only those three, most of us have maybe one of those three or none of those three. And what that means is as we grow up, life feels very serious, and it comes with a heap of emotion that feels overwhelming for a lot of us sensitive souls, a heap of emotion that we don't know what to do with, so we tend to numb it out, right? We have a pandemic society that numbs out these intense feelings and emotions in all sorts of a kaleidoscope of ways, because we don't know what to do with what's coming up inside of us. And just like Brené Brown says, the moment you start to shut down one part of you, all of it has to be shut down. So you can't numb out the bad feelings without numbing out play, joy, and all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't work. It's a one size fits all. It all gets shut down. So in order to create more play, fun, and intimacy, we also need to allow space for emotional, physical, and spiritual and psychological exploration. We need to ask the question, how am I? How am I? How am I really, really, really? Like really? Not this kind of English pleasantry of, no, I'm fine, it's okay. Or the other one where we're gaslighting ourselves and saying, I should be all right. I should be okay. My life on the whole, on paper, is great. And if I'm not okay, then I'm being ungrateful, I'm being selfish. All of that is a trap, okay? I'm not saying that we have to be ungrateful by any stretch of the imagination, but we do need a level of honesty with ourselves to go, how am I? And out of that will come a plan. And the plan will incorporate two things. The first is looking at what's stopping you from feeling happy, or at least feeling like you're enjoying your own life. And what that means is there's probably some attachment style stuff going on that I really recommend that you look into. There might be some trauma, likely to be some trauma, and the relationship to how you process emotion, right? And then on the other side, what are you pointing your North Star towards? Where are you heading? What kind of things are you filling your life with? Do they feel good? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel lit up? Do you feel creative? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like you want to go towards your own life? Are you happy about what you're doing? If not, then that needs an actual reassessment of what is going on, so that you can, at this point in time, completely go, hang on, I need a timeout. I need a time out, and I need to take responsibility for what the outcome is of asking myself this question. I was just talking to somebody that I met recently who does a podcast called Life Begins at Midlife, and she was talking about how so many people get to the midlife after they've had the kids, they've got the house, they've got the potential divorce behind them, and then there's a massive reassessment that goes, well, now what? What do I want? What do I want? Not what society tells me, not what is going on for other people, not what they think I should be doing, but what do I want? And that's the answer. When you start really being honest with yourself, then you can do something completely radical, like creating a life that feels good. One of the things that drives me forward a lot is I don't want to get to the age of 80, look back at the rest of my life and just go, what a waste. I did nothing that I really wanted to do. I just did what everyone else wanted me to do. And for what? What did I get out of that? Instead, every single day, my driving force is, because I know myself, is how are the quality of my relationships? What is my mission? Where am I being of service? And how can I show up so fully me and challenge myself every day to really live and breathe who I am, and all of what that means. Now, you may not feel as fiercely connected or passionate in the same way as I do. Like, this is my core mission and purpose, to be having this conversation with you today. That's part of my mission. But on some level, it might be speaking to you, and it might be saying, ooh, she's onto something there. I need to really step up and pay attention. I need to listen to this. I need to do some investigation and see what's going on. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got an endless, relentless programming of fear in our society, which is fueled by so many wars, so much horrific images that come out of through the news of what's actually going on in these awful situations of persecution and domination and annihilation. Like, oh God, it's awful. And yet that is the norm. Like, we live in a society where there is so many problems to do with child abduction and sex trafficking, and the list is endless. We do not live in a type of society where people are allowed to thrive. So to look after yourself is a radical act of rebellion, right? It is. And so when you say to me, how do I cultivate more play, fun, and intimacy in this world? Well, those are acts of rebellion to me. That is, I need to make a proper intention every single day to make to make those experiences come alive in my life, rather than working from a reactive bandwagon of keep chasing myself over and over with busyness, with stress, with putting everybody else's needs before mine, by trying to fit in and conform and not rock the boat and be the good girl and be the perfect version of myself so that it doesn't upset anybody. Like these are all cages around our hearts. They're like that Chinese finger torture thing. So every time you pull it a little bit more, it gets tighter. And so the more stress and the more tightness and the more we just keep going, the tighter that gets. And the answer to how do we create more play, fun, and intimacy is to stop, is to create time, to really have a radical idea of what it is that I want for my own life, and then simplify it. Really, really simplify. What is it that I want? What is it I don't want? How do I want this to happen? How can I go about doing this audit to see what's left? One of the things that I did to see what the most impactful things that made a difference, made me happy in my life, was I did a happiness jar, and I did this with my son back in 2018. And every single day we had a jar, and every single day we would write on a piece of paper what made me happy today. And I did it for a year. And at the end of that year, I saw all of the things that really made me happy. And I could see that there were certain people that I loved hanging out with. There were certain things that I loved doing that really always made me happy. There were certain experiences like connecting with Drew and doing something with him. These were the things that fulfilled me. And my work and the types of things I was doing with my work and being of service mattered. And by following and allowing myself to have these experiences, I found more levity. And also, so that's point B. Point A was about really looking at my emotional world and figuring out what's going on inside of me, and the shoulds and the cages and things like that stop me from having more play, fun, and intimacy. Those are the things that fundamentally stop you from doing that. So by focusing on those two experiences, not only did I figure out what the cage was, but I also found the key to what I wanted to create. And so the last thing I will say about that is we live in a society where martyrdom is revered. It's how do you say, martyrdom is, it's just revered. It's put on a pedestal. If you can martyr yourself, then it's a really, martyrdom being that you put everyone else's needs before your own, and in the process you are sacrificing yourself, and then resent the people that are around you for it, right? And so in order to play, in order to have fun, in order to be intimate, what you need to do is look at the places where you enter into that dynamic and then resent somebody else for it, because that is the opposite direction of what you're wanting to create. Okay? So by looking at those fundamental things, and I know you probably wanted a simple answer to this, but you're talking about the very fabric of our being. The very fabric of our being wants to be playful and fun and intimate. That is how we're designed, and yet we are put together and conditioned, and the society is made in such a way that it takes us away from that, and it doesn't value play, fun and intimacy as important. And so the rebellious act is to be able to identify what stops us from doing that, look at those, and then focus on creating fun, play and intimacy, which is, there's a lightness to the spirit there instead of that heaviness and density. And we have to give ourselves permission. We have to give ourselves permission to be more playful, fun and intimate. Right? So, that being said, one of my favorite things to do to create more of that in my life is to figure out what I enjoy doing, like I said to you before, and then do it. I know that sounds simple, but I know that devices in my life take away from play and fun. So yesterday, for example, Drew comes home from school, and he's hardwired at this point still to want to connect and play. So he comes in and he says to me, "Can we go and jump on the trampoline?" My childhood programming, who is still quite serious and gets in the way sometimes still, wants to go, "No, I'm too busy." And yet the conscious part of me goes, right, this is one of those opportunities where I have to break the pattern. And so I actually said no to start off with. Then I caught myself, and then I re-invited him into the situation so that we could go and jump on the trampoline. And for 10 minutes, that's all it was. For 10 minutes, we just had fun. We were silly. We were, just silly. I allowed that opportunity to be silly. And that's it. Intimacy is interesting, especially in a relationship, because intimacy actually at this point requires emotional connection. And we're all learning what that means still. And especially in relationships, so many of us don't understand what emotional intimacy means. And so whilst we're learning what that means and learning what emotions are, especially a lot of men are still very unfamiliar what emotions are, and that's okay, that's part of their evolution. We can create, through dialogue, through conversation with our partners, we can create other forms of intimacy. So there isn't just emotional intimacy, although that is the most effective one for everybody when you've got the skills to be able to do that. Other forms include a task intimacy, sexual intimacy, play intimacy, doing a project together, learning a new skill together, being interested and exploring together. Like there's lots of different ways. And so having the conversation where you both feel alive about creating something together, that even just the creation of the idea can feel intimate. So with all that being said, that was a lot to unpack there. At first glance, it sounds like a simple and easy question to answer, and yet when you start getting into it, you realize actually there's a little bit more going on here. All of this, every single bit of this starts with self-reflection, so that you can start asking the right questions. Are you self-reflective? Is your partner self-reflective? Are you creating an environment in your home that allows for self-reflection? Yes or no? Do you know how to do that? That's a really important place, because once you have self-reflection, you have awareness. Once you have awareness, you create choice. Once you have choice, then you get to choose what it is that you want for yourself and what your family wants, and then coming together feels like an invitation, and that feels amazing. All right, so that's it for today. I am going to be exploring more of these topics in my newsletter. So if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I'm going to put the link in the show notes underneath. And each time that there's something really juicy and hot on my mind and my heart, I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to put it in the newsletter, and it's a really great way to keep up to date with all of the things that are coming up, that are going on, because there are some big changes happening for many of us from today, from the solstice and the full moon. And so let's keep up to date with what's going on. And I would love to hear from you, really. So if you've got a question, if something's come up for you, if you would like some more clarification on something that I've said today, please reach out and let me know. I would literally love to hear from you. Okay? So have a great day. Keep believing in yourself, and I will speak to you soon. Lots of love.